Hey, Gator Nation. Welcome back to an all new episode of the Respect Our Decision podcast, guys. As always, I'm your boy Hirsch. With me, CJ the Man McCann,
What's up, guys?
and the hype man Wes is not with us again this week. He had father duties tonight. He had band recital he had to attend. You know, real life stuff getting in the way. And we'll probably miss him again next week. As you know, guys, I'm getting married the morning of the Florida Georgia game. I'm not even sure if we'll have a show next week. If something happens between now and then that we feel the need, we need to sit down and talk about. Me and CJ will probably sit down first of the week and do a show. But in case we don't, just letting you know, it's going to be a couple weeks before another episode is out, and then we'll go from there. We're going to talk about a few things tonight, though. We're gonna talk about the Gators getting a big win over the Kentucky Wildcats. The freshmen really showed out. We're going to talk all about that. And then we're going to look ahead. We're going to talk about what's to come. What is the future as we hit the gauntlet that we've talked about for a year now? And what will it mean for Billy Napier's tenure? Will this be the last ride? Will he buy himself another season? Stick around. We're going to talk about all of that. I know everybody's got their own opinion. And none of your opinions are necessarily wrong right now. But me and CJ are going to have some back and forth about that. Give our opinions. Please, as always, respect our decision and our opinion. You know, they may differ from yours, guys. It's just the way it is. We're here to kind of look at all the facts of the situation and kind of talk about the things we've heard and what reality might be. I mean, I know a large percentage are like, he needs to go. And look, this podcaster is kind of right there with you. I know CJ is as well. But we don't make these decisions at the end of the day. We're just the guys that sit down and voice our opinions out loud on message boards and on Twitter and on podcasts such as these and you know, shout into the void some days. But we're going to talk about it all. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube and you haven't already, and a lot of you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, guys. It helps us a ton. Drop a like on the video. We need 100 likes on this video each and every time. And let's go ahead and get ahead of the curve, because we might not have a show next week. Go ahead, drop that score prediction for UGA in the comments, and additional comment, what do the Gators finish out record-wise on the season? As they stand right now, 4-3. Obviously, we got 4 tough games and a what should be a pushover at the end of the season. We'll see where the mental status is by then. Obviously, anything can happen when Florida and Florida State kick it off, but that should be an easy one. All right, let's talk about some really good stuff first, though, man. There was a lot of talk going into the Kentucky game. All of us kind of had our questions about how DJ would handle his first start being the Gators quarterback. Montrell Johnson out as well. So you had Baugh and Jacoby doing the thing. Obviously, by now, unless you're under a rock, you heard that Jaden Baugh absolutely Jaden Bowling Baugh, as some like to call him, or Run the Damn Ball, or all the other fun Chris Berman-esque nicknames that you can find. The Gators really showed up and showed out against Kentucky. Now, there were some rough spots, and we're going to talk about that too. There's some very Billy Napier characteristical things that happened in this game that made you think for a minute, I've seen this movie before. But also, we saw the defense continue to play at a very high level. Very good to see. You saw a vertical passing game that we haven't seen in God knows when. DJ really throwing the ball around. I mean, only completed 7 passes, but to end up with 259 yards, I mean, the kid was slinging it. He threw a bad interception and had some plays where he looked a little off, but he's a true freshman, man, playing against what was touted as a very strong defense in the SEC. We know what Mark Stoops brings to the table. All in all, though, nothing you can really complain about. You lost Jason Marshall, what looks like it could be a season-ending injury to a collarbone. That, to me, is the biggest negative takeaway of the entire game, because you lost a guy that was having an all SEC kind of year. I mean, Jason Marshall really turned around what was a bad season last year into really pushing his draft stock up the charts. CJ, what were your main takeaways from this game?
It was great to see Jaden Baugh get to run the football, and I think a lot of us kind of felt like he needed to get the reps coming in. I think we all were like, "This kid is not a freshman. This is a freak athlete. He needs to get the ball." I'm glad to see him do it. He tied a record with Tim Tebow and Trey Burton for 5 rushing touchdowns. That's awesome. That's really cool for the kid to be a freshman and already have that accolade under your belt. Of course, DJ Lagway doing DJ Lagway stuff. You let him throw the football around. He's got a cannon for an arm, some design run stuff, which is, I think, what we were all begging for. Like, let's let DJ actually run the football. He's deceptively fast for a guy his size. A lot of people didn't know how fast he is, but if you go back and watch the high school tape, you can see him. Absolutely, he has blistering speed. He has really, really underrated speed. Now he's not Anthony Richardson fast, and he's not Olympic, Jeff Demps fast, but he's really fast for the position. That was really good to see. The offensive line played really well. Kentucky stacked the box, and Florida was able to run right at it and still get great yards running the football, which is something that we have not consistently been able to do. Especially against Kentucky. Kentucky usually gives us really big fits with their defense, but we were able to really put up some points and some yards. We saw, maybe Billy Napier kind of. I don't know if it was so much the play calling or just having a guy that is always looking for a bigger play in DJ Lagway. You saw the interception. I think that was a miscommunication between him and DK. He threw it on like the post, and then DK went on the out.
He tried to throw the same route he had thrown to Badger pretty much the series before.
Yeah, I think that he just got confused on where he was going with the foot. Again, he's a freshman. There was the early route to Eugene Wilson. If he stands in the pocket there instead of rolling to the left, I think Eugene scores on that pass because Kentucky just absolutely left him open because they don't expect Eugene Wilson to run an actual route. He ran a post route there, and that was like, whoa. We don't get to see that much from Eugene. It's usually usually bubble screens and jet sweeps, even though he's a talented receiver. So that was really cool. Defensively, it's night and day compared to where we've been, and even against a bad offense in Kentucky. I've seen Florida play with bad offenses before, and our defense make them look really, really good. So to do your job in this situation, I'm going to give them some credit. Triquez Bridges played well. You got to see Cormani McClain get a pick six. We saw Devin Moore get a pick six. George Gums played great. Jack Pyburn played great. You saw these guys all around the field making plays. Pup Howard. So
Moore
you've
didn't
got
get into the end
guys that,
zone. Moore didn't get into the end zone. I want to make sure before somebody
I was.
corrects you.
You're right.
That was one of
He
Baugh's.
didn't have a pick.
Baugh capitalized off of that one, but yes.
You're right. He got close. I don't know what I'm I'm remembering, but yeah, he got close. He had a heck of a return on an interception. Having those few interceptions in a game, you're forcing that many turnovers. We don't do that much, so it was really cool for the defense to be able to step up for some turnovers. Um, we did get beat on a flea flicker. You get beat on a kick return, and then Kentucky has one really really good drive. So to have a trick play beat you, and then a kick return and only let them score on one, actual drive down the field is really good for our defense. Um, it just there are things that were not perfect. Some of the play calling, some of the decisions, the decision to just sit on the ball at the end of the half, as opposed to trying to push it downfield when you've got DJ Lagway who's throwing it really well. You've got
And they got the ball out of the half.
And you get the ball out of the half. You're up 14. Just push, go, because at that point it was a 14-point game at that point. Kentucky got the ball and they made it a one-score game when you were up 27-6 at one point, and it just that's where I think we all kind of collectively said, okay, here we go. We've scored 27 points. We're not going to get any more, and we're just going to be stuck with this. But they did a good job. The second half they played better than the first half, which is something we can't consistently say with the Billy Napier regime. It's typically look really bad in the second half, but I think we played better in the second half. You got to see some really cool stuff from a lot of guys between Badger and DK, Boardingham. You got to see, of course, the running back. We talked about Jaden Baugh. We talked about Jacoby Jackson, a guy that runs the ball like he wants to take it to the house every time he touches it. Really cool moment at the end of the game. You get to see Cam Carroll get in and get a couple of carries. A guy that's struggled with a really bad injury that probably won't be able to play football at post his college career at all. So to see him get a few carries was really cool. All in all, just a good feeling. You honor the '84 team. You go out there, you win the game. It's homecoming. You love to win on a homecoming. You beat Kentucky. You don't let them beat you for a fourth time in a row, which is unprecedented in Florida football history. Just a team that you've typically handled from since the turn of the century. So there was a lot of good stuff there. Really good complete game. Probably the most complete game Florida's played this season. And that's really cool to see. It's cool to see the players haven't given up on the season yet, which is really important. You're going to the Georgia game. We've seen what Georgia games look like when you've got a team that is completely uninterested in playing. And I don't think any of us want to see that again. So to see them motivated at this point in the season, get a win at Kentucky, congrats to the guys. Good job all the way around. Give credit where credit is due. They played a heck of a ball game.
Yeah, just echoing on everything you said. This is probably the most complete game, obviously, we've seen this year. Defense did their thing all night long. Nice to see tipped ball, interceptions, things like that. Just things that we haven't seen in a while. It felt like it was just one of those games of old where good things were happening all over the field at good times. Now, we had some breakdowns on defense. Their run game had some success. I watched the breakdown of that. They were opening up some lanes on us. But the good thing about us is we were scoring on offense, and we were able to get them off of their game plan. They were not allowed to just run the football. They had to try to pass. And thank goodness Brock Vandergriff is he ain't Will Levis, and that means it's really bad. That's a football team. We're two football teams going in opposite directions right now, and the Gators took care of business, did what they needed to do. DJ looked very solid, looked very comfortable running the offense. He did have, like we said, he had a few mistakes, but that's a true freshman in the SEC against a guy that we've seen scheme veteran quarterbacks into making mistakes. I watched Kentucky play Georgia, and they had Beck hemmed up all night in that game. And I saw success that DJ had that Beck wasn't able to have against them in that game. The receivers are really doing their part. Elijah Badger is as solid a pickup to me as Ricky was. Just a great kid. Sad we're only going to get him for 1 year. And he's sneaky close to, he's on the positive side to getting 1,000 yards now. And I was told 2 days ago by somebody that would know better than me that talked to Badger, actually, that DJ came up to him on Sunday and said, "I'm going to get you to 1,000." That's what kind of leader DJ Lagway is as a true freshman. That's where his mindset is. He knows he's only got 1 year with this guy. He knows this guy's trying to put up enough tape to increase his draft stock. And this kid's like, "We're going to get you there." That, to me, that's just, I know some people might look at that and be like, he's just, that's just two dudes talking about football and whatnot. To me, that's just a kid understanding the bigger picture and all of that and being like, "We're going to get you there. We're going to take care of you." And make no mistake about it, we know they've got the connection. I mean, Lagway's gotten into that, screw it, Badger's down there somewhere, except he hits him right in the breadbasket most of the time when he throws it. It's unbelievable to watch his deep ball and not. We watched Nico the week before, obviously, just throwing deep balls and overthrowing his guy by 10 yards. We watched Joe Milton do that. We've watched other quarterbacks, do that. And DJ just seems to have, and I hark back to it, as a true freshman in the SEC, seems to have a touch on the ball like I've never seen out of a kid his age. The game is never too big for him. He doesn't seem confused. Now, he's going to get his ultimate test, obviously, in 2 weeks, because Kirby's going to look at the game film from Kentucky. He's going to look at some of what Tennessee did when DJ came in. And Kirby's going to blend up some kind of concoction to try to put this kid in a blender. I mean, it's just natural. That's what's going to happen. We saw him do it to AR, and obviously we know the AR situation was completely different. AR should never have started that game versus Georgia. He was nowhere near ready to, and that's a whole different thing. But Kirby does that. He knows how to scheme and pick up on the opposing team's weakness. And I'm not going to go too much into a deep dive of the Georgia game. Obviously, Georgia went to Austin and took care of business. And they looked okay doing it. I'm not going to sit there and say they look like world beaters, because their offense didn't look super great. Their defense, though, however, did look really solid. They're going to be without 2 safeties for the start of that game that both got targeting penalties. So, hey, maybe Billy comes out early and tries to take some shots over the top and test their safeties. I know Starks is still playing, so he's an all SEC caliber safety. So, I mean, it's not like they don't have talent still on that back end, but it will be very interesting to see how our team responds coming out of bye and knowing, look, you got Trevor Etienne over there, are you taking, how personal are we taking that? There's some guys on the defense that, Shamar James, that's played with that guy for a couple years, is like, man, I really like to give that guy a Brandon Spikes moment. Someone else I wanted to talk about before we got too far. I missed it if you mentioned him, but your boy, Mr. Robinson, the linebacker, Mr. Robinson, it's time to have a real discussion about that young man, because he has come on like a lightning bolt.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, whenever we brought him in, I was like, this guy could be the difference maker for us as a coverage linebacker that we hadn't had a lot of and a lot of success with. A lot of our guys were not.
Eyes very well.
He does a good job. He covers the whole field. He plays sideline to sideline. He's not. Is he the biggest linebacker? No. But he absolutely is just a really good. He's got really good field vision, which is the kind of guy you want. I mean, that's the kind of guy that you're going to say, when Shamar leaves, that's the kind of guy you want to put the green dot on the back of his helmet. And
he's wearing it now in certain situations.
Right. And that's the guy you want to really be your middle linebacker and be able to get everybody
him
in position.
Pup back there. Then you got, obviously you got Miles and Childs. I mean, the names are killing me. But the play that Robinson made on third and 2, third and whatever, short down by the goal line. And even though he didn't make the tackle, the guy he made a great move on the guy. He held him up long enough. Des finished him off. Then on 4th and 1, they go for it and we stop him. And that's because of that's because of Robinson. Like he made that play by just holding that running back up in the backfield long enough for Des. And shout out to Big Des. He was hustling on that play. I mean, I know he didn't go very far, but Big Des has improved. And maybe some people don't see it. And I know a lot of people don't feel like he even should be on a Florida Gator field. But the young man has continued to work at his craft. He works hard. He plays hard. He does what he's asked.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the faults that we have with Dez aren't his fault. It's more or less situational play calling.
It's not his fault we don't have depth at defensive tackle.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong when you lose Lyons to start the year. That doesn't help you at all. And then you have Banks and Jackson who, they can't play the whole game. And then when you look at the back end of that, you've got kids like Barreau and DeAndre Robinson who are true freshmen. So,
Who
yeah, I
you're
mean,
trying not to burn their shirts,
right,
probably.
exactly. And but Dez has been here long enough. He knows what he's doing. Like I said, I think we've all been more or less just said that I think that Dez just needs to be used situationally a little better. You got to be careful getting him stuck out there on certain plays when they're trying to
Yeah, you got to know
rotate.
who goes
And
tempo.
right, yeah, you got to be careful with that. You get him stuck out there in bad fits because of substitutions and things like that.
Well, with that being said, let's look ahead. We're already talking about Georgia a little bit, and now we're about to start this stretch. Georgia at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss at home, and then at FSU. This is what I've heard personally, and it's kind of been out there in the stratosphere the last 24, 48 hours. Billy would have to go 2-2 in the next 4 games in order to save his job. FSU doesn't count in this, summary because FSU is generationally bad this season. And if he can't beat them, then that already tells you what you need. But he's getting the rest of the season, regardless of what happens next week or in Austin. He's getting the rest of the season. We're doing the Ron Zook thing, except he hasn't, as far as I know, been told he's not being retained this year. But he would have to go 2-2 in these next 4 games. Now it's a tough road to hoe. You're going to play Georgia, which we know how that generally goes, but Georgia's not quite what they have been the last few years, and we're trending up. I will say that we beat some bad teams, but you've seen enough good out of the team to think, all right, they ought to have a good fight this year. Where other years you were kind of like, the last few years we're kind of like, we're not there talent wise. This year I feel like we're closer talent wise. It still comes down to who's coaching the teams, and we know how that usually turns out. Then you have to go. My thing is if you lose to Georgia, that trip to Austin is going to be a lot harder because you're going to be coming off of what's going to be guaranteed a physical game. You're already down, like I said, Jason Marshall right now. As it stands right now, the starting corners for Georgia will be Devin Moore and Dijon Johnson, as it was explained to me. So I don't know what's going on with Jackson's hamstring. I know it was really bad. I don't know what the timetable is for it return. Obviously, injury information is sketchy at best nowadays. Then you come back to face LSU at home. Now, that should be a good game. LSU's not world beaters, but they're vastly improved over the team that lost to USC at the beginning of the season. They have really good lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And then you have the Ole Miss game, and people have different opinions about that. A lot of people are like, well, Lane's going to be auditioning for the job. He's going to be showing off for Spurrier because he loves Steve Spurrier. He's going to try to score all the points in the world. And then me, personally, I feel like after that team loses to Georgia, a lot of those guys might check out because that's a lot of transfers on that team that are probably going to be like, we're not going to the playoffs. I'm going to start getting myself ready for the draft. The Princeleys, the Walter Nolans of the world. And I could be sadly mistaken. They may absolutely buy all the way in and say, I need good tape every game of the season to get drafted. It's just a weird landscape now. We know how this is. We see guys every day now. Somebody's dropping a I'm opting out for the rest of the season note. So given that information, CJ, that I just said, that it looks like from people that are in the know, Napier would have to go 2-2 over the next 4 games. You know what the next 4 games are. Also keep in the back of your mind, because I know you're probably going to bring this up. The Gators currently have the number 51 recruiting class in the country after losing Mbachu this week to decommit. What do you think are the pros, cons, and outcome of this next 4 games?
I don't have any confidence that we go 7-5. I have no confidence that we, even go 1-3 in the next 4 games. I understand you can look at it's like, well, Florida's figuring it out. But you look at how we've played against quality opponents. Miami is a quality opponent, and you got smacked around at your own place. And then the same thing happens when you play Texas A&M. And then Tennessee, you should win because of coaching malpractice. You don't. So where does that leave you? Is Georgia the questioned juggernaut that we're accustomed to them being? I don't think so. There's still time for Kirby to keep working and tweaking. I'm wondering about Georgia. The only thing I worry about with Georgia is I think that they have a severe lack of playmakers on the outside. I think wide receiver room at Georgia has been neglected, or the guys that they have brought in just haven't worked out. They're really missing McConkey and Bowers this year. It's just then you don't have Rob Thomas, and then you lose who's the other kid, Colby Young. So you lose that. That's a lot of playmakers that Georgia just doesn't have. And Carson Beck needs guys to help him out. So they still have some guys. Of course, they've recruited for this. This is what they've done. But it seems like Georgia finds themselves in this position a lot. It's just Kirby's not an offensive guy. Sometimes you end up neglecting that part of it, or nowadays with the transfer portal, guys don't want to wait. So the guys that you do recruit, they take off. And I don't know how that's going to go, but I do know one thing that Kirby would rather drag his balls across vinegar after running through a razor blade field than lose to Florida. So he's going to have his guys at peak performance. He's not going to come out there and sleepwalk like he did against Kentucky or like he did at the end of the Mississippi State game. That's just not what he's going to do. Texas is still Texas. They lose to Georgia, but they're still super talented. You still got to go there. That's a long flight. You got to play somewhere else. I don't have faith in that one. LSU has picked it up compared to where I thought they were about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Garrett Nussmeier's playing really well.
I was going to add that. Those 3 stretch of quarterbacks outside of Cam Ward are the 3 best quarterbacks you're going to play all year. We have not played in the last few games that we have won and looked good. One common denominator for all those teams was really bad quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the quarterback, the stress you've got to play, or guys that were talked about being all conference players, guys that were put in the first round of the draft to start the season. You could say whatever you want to about Jackson Dart now, but he was still on the level of that. So you're talking about Beck, you're talking about Ewers or Manning, whichever one, pick your poison. And then you have
still very solid compared. They're still better than any quarterback we've played the last month.
Arch Manning can run circles around Brock Vandagriff. So, I mean, if we end up playing him, I don't care. Garrett Nussmeier. And then, of course, Jackson Dart is still talented. He was a guy that was getting a lot of press. Is he going to be a first-round quarterback? Probably not anymore. But he's still, better than Nico in his current state, better than KJ Jefferson, better than Brock Vandagriff. So that's a tough stretch of quarterbacks you got to play. And you just have to rely on your defense to continue looking like they look. And it just history is telling us that that's not the case. You can still watch game film and you still see some things that aren't completely there. Good offensive coordinators, good offensive teams are going to exploit that. And then, like you said, the recruiting class is. I mean, we're 6 weeks away from early signing day. How much good faith can you buy? How much can you convince kids to join the program now When you're halfway through the season, and the only thing you see about the coach at Florida is there's a hot board every week of guys that could replace him. Vegas has betting odds. They're not thinking this guy's going to make it. And I understand the whole commit to the school, not the coach, but you know, you kind of want to know who your coach is going to be. Um, and that's really tough in this day and age where recruiting, doesn't stretch on until February anymore. You don't have that much time. You're 51st. Most of the top 300 guys have committed at this point. At least the ones that were considering you. Can you flip some guys? Maybe, but what are you selling now? I mean, the beginning of the season you had a lot of hope to sell, and you lost a lot
Oh,
of it.
excuse me.
So I just don't. I don't know if there's a way that Napier can save his job at this point. I think that they are. I think it's too far gone for the program. I think that Napier going 7-5 and saving his job would probably do more damage at this point than I think it would do good because of the recruiting classes is already it's already
Cooked.
shot. I
It's
mean,
cooked.
you're already
That's
out. The
why
only
we
thing
stopped talking about recruiting, because there's literally right now
you watch
nothing to talk about.
you watch the game we play against Kentucky. It's homecoming. They've got the visitors section for the recruits, and it's empty. I think I said in the Facebook chat,
6 guys.
there's whole 6 recruits down there.
And
We're,
they
we're
were
talking,
probably guys that were already committed.
and we're talking about a team that we used to come on here, and Florida's playing so and so this week. We've got a list of 25 visitors. That's not happening anymore.
They're not even talking about the visitors. Like
It's
it,
Yeah,
it's
there's not
just
even
guys that
reports.
are already committed.
We don't know who's visiting. We don't ever hear about it. We don't, there maybe once in a while you hear about a 26 kid, but and even still 25 is not going to save you next year. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things for next season. But if you hire a new coach, he has a chance to sell a vision and take some of the guys who committed him at a previous school that he's coming from to bring them with him. This is just, what are you selling at this point? Um, I mean, DJ Lagway, we've seen that the selling point with DJ Lagway just has not worked with a lot of these kids. I think a lot of it is just like, yeah, I know DJ's a great quarterback. I'd love to play with him, but not in this system. Um, and that's just been where we've been stuck with every top receiver. You look at all the guys that we missed on playing receivers somewhere else, and they're leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of the guys we have on the roster. You look at Moore at Clemson having a great year. You look at Cam Coleman at Auburn. He's the only bright spot Auburn has on that offense. You look at Jeremiah Smith, who's a freshman that's getting Heisman talk. That's not great. You whiffed on all those guys. So to wrap it up, I just think that it's too far gone at this point unless Billy Napier, and I understand if Billy Napier goes 8-4 somehow, like if he just absolutely torches the rest of the
Pulls the
schedule,
rabbit out of his ass.
then
You beat
yeah,
Georgia.
you,
Yeah.
you'd have to you beat Georgia or Texas at that point. You got to beat one of them. So then I understand. Yeah, okay, because I'm fair enough to say at the beginning of the season we all said 7-5, 8-4. But the 7-5, 8-4 we were talking about looks very different than what is on the table at this point, especially the 7-5. I thought we all expected to win early, and that was not the case. That's not what happened. You didn't buy any good faith early, um, so that's affected your recruiting. That was another thing we're like, okay, you win some games early, you can get some recruits in, and if you finish the year 7-5 and you won those games early, they're okay about the direction. Now it's like you're trying to pull the nose up on the thing. Most of these kids are locked into where they're going. I just don't see how you could do it. Maybe you win these games, and Napier can pull it up to like the 30th, ranked recruiting class somewhere in there. Is that great? No, but it's not a disaster. Um, that would be the really only hope. I don't see that happening. Like I
I've
said,
seen, and sorry to cut you off on that. I've seen people say, well, if he does that, if he goes 7-5, maybe he could get top 20 at least. Guys, that's not going to happen. It's you've almost put yourself in a statistically impossible situation to get that high, because the amount of kids that, like CJ alluded to, that are already committed to other programs, and it's hard to flip kids. Could you have an outstanding run here and flip a Solomon Thomas from FSU as a big prospect? Yes, you absolutely could. Could you get another guy? Yes, you could. But to get to top 20 from where you're at now is a meteoric rise. And it would not only take flipping some really good kids, it would take winnings and being very impressive in some games left, so much so that people aren't negative recruiting. Well, he's going to get fired. If he doesn't get fired this year, he's getting fired next year. And that's the pitch. Every coach that is recruiting against Billy Napier right now has the same exact pitch. He's about to get fired. There's no way he goes. I've already heard he has to win. I listened to the Respect Our Decision podcast. They said he has to win 2 out of the next 4 games. He ain't doing that. So, blah, blah, blah. Very hypothetical, obviously. But every coach is negatively recruiting Billy right now to the teeth. I mean, can you imagine Kirby walking into a recruit's living room that's even considering Florida right now and being like, do you want to play for the guy that I've smacked the shit out of 2 times, about to try to make it 3? He's going to be fired. He's going back to the Bayou or wherever he's going to be on my support staff next year. I'm going to hire him as a pity hire. That's the kind of smack talk Kirby's probably doing in living rooms right now about Billy Napier. I'm gonna give Napier a pity job just so I can get Katie back on my recruiting staff. It's just I don't know. As CJ said, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I'm not trying to be overly negative about this. It kind of speaks for itself. I'd love to see the dude go out there and win 3 out of the next 4 games because I love Florida football. I don't want to see us lose. But I'm talking about reality. The one good team I watched him coach against in this run of improvement, and I'm not saying the team has not improved. It absolutely has. But this is where we thought the team should have been anyway at the beginning of the season in year 3. They're just now getting there. They should have come out the gate like this. We've seen Miami struggle with Virginia Tech, dogfight with Louisville. Teams like Cal. Those teams aren't marginally better than Florida. And if you talent-wise, I know they're not. So what does it come down to? We talked about the Tennessee game. 3 different coaching decisions alone in that game, and you win that game in regulation pretty easily. I'd maybe take out 1 because of the fumble by Mertz. I mean, but still, it's a man that has consistently put himself in a box by bad decisions. And maybe they say, oh, you win these games and we make you hire an offensive coordinator. But I heard this talk last year. I heard the same talk. We talked about it on the show last year after the season. Oh, they're going to make him hire an offensive coordinator. And it never came to pass. So you have to sit here, listen to what we're saying, and you as a fan decide. And I know some people, before I say this, some people are like, we just can't keep firing coaches. You're right. You got to hire the right one. You have to hire the right one. You have to hire that guy. We're not doing coaching boards yet. We're not there. There ain't even a sense talking about it. You have to hire the guy that is going to be here 5+ years, just given his career aspirations and things of that nature. He's going to hire a top-notch staff, not his buddies, not dudes that they've been with me for years. I trust them. No successful coach has that tree. You have to ask yourself as a Florida fan right now, is 7-5, 6-6, and a top 40 whatever recruiting class the standard that I am willing to accept at the University of Florida? Plain and simple. We preached patience for 2.5 years. Our patience was rewarded with the same mistakes and a team in the middle of the season finally reaching where we thought they should have been game one. Kudos to the team playing their ass off. They could have quit after the Texas A&M game. I would not have doubted almost any of them, because they could have said, we hitched our wagon to a really bad horse. And they're fighting for him. So that speaks to Billy Napier as a person, as a guy that a leader. But just because you're a great leader doesn't mean you're a great coach. I mean, you have to be able to look at those things objectively and say that, they don't always have to be the same thing. There's a lot of great leaders that can't, leaders that can't be coaches out there, that they become assistant coaches and or they go back to the lower league and they coach for 10, 15 years and win a couple of Division II championships or whatever have you not. And that might be where Billy's wheelhouse is. There's nothing wrong with that. We've said that before too. If Billy goes back to a school like Louisiana and rolls out 10-2 seasons, and does what he was doing at Louisiana, that might be his wheelhouse. But things will start to clear itself up in this stretch. That's all we can say right now, is that the future is not that far away as far as it goes for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. The future is now, though, as far as pick'ems go, because these three guys last week didn't do anything at all to separate themselves. We had completely different picks and all went 7-3 somehow. TJ is now the official picker and savant of the Big Ten. If you need Big Ten picks, CJ never misses on a Big Ten pick.
The Big Ten, baby. I'm the Swami of the Big Ten there.
I mean, I guess it's better to be, good than whatever they say. All right. Wes in here. Wes has mailed in his picks. I will announce those as we go. Slate of games this week is kind of but we found 10 that we like and we're going to roll with them. All right, starting it off. Couple of gold helmets, locking it up. Notre Dame at Navy. The Armed Forces schools, man, are really showing it out this year. It's a great year. Wes, of course, went with the Golden Domers. CJ, who are you taking in this matchup?
I love the Navy story. I really, it would be cool to see Navy continue on this run, but I just don't see it against Notre Dame. I think the Northern Illinois loss was just a fluke, and it just woke them up. They were like, "Whoa, we can't keep doing what we're doing here."
It happens, man. Good. I told people that sometimes you get beat. It just happens.
And they have been playing really well. So I'm taking the Irish, but watch out for Navy. They're still running that triple option, and I think if you let it beat you, it'll beat you.
It will beat you. Paul Johnson just can't beat you with it most of the time. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame as well. Just too many athletes right there. I like what Coach Freeman has done rebounding from that Northern Illinois game. But that could be a weird one, man. Like you said, that's one of those games that you could look up and Navy be out to a lead and be like, man, I might have to check that out. All right. Well, I know where you're going with this one, but it's it's two ranked teams facing off. Illinois traveling up north to play Oregon. Wes, of course, went with Oregon. I'm going with Oregon. I know you're going with Oregon. That's your champion.
Ducks. Going with the Ducks. We're rolling with the Ducks. Illinois has been sneaky good, though. Illinois helped me out last week. They came out with the leather helmets and beat Michigan.
I like those helmets. Those uniforms were ugly as sin. The uniforms were terrible.
Oh, yeah.
From the neck down, they were horrible. The helmets were fire.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with these teams wearing throwback uniforms and they like have skin tone pants.
The Giant between that and the ones the Giants wore this year.
Oh.
All right. Little SEC action. Texas coming off a fresh loss, coming up against the Giant Killers, going to Nashville to take on the Commodores of Vanderbilt. Vandy has installed netting around to make sure that when they pull this upset, the fans don't go flooding the field. Wes don't believe in it. He took Texas. What you think?
Yeah, I'm taking Texas too. Would I love to see Vandy pull it off? Absolutely, but I just, again, I think Texas is very talented. I think Georgia's just, a good football team. I think they could play that game 10 more times and we have a different outcome every time.
I think that game was just a classic. Kirby already lost to Bama. He wasn't losing to another big school. He put it all out there and welcomed Texas to the SEC. I don't think Vandy's ready to welcome Texas to the SEC. But you know what? It could be an entertaining game. I give it that. I do think Vandy will show up. I just don't think they're going to show out. Give me Texas in this one. All right. Time to talk about Paw Paw. The Fighting Fishes of Washington are traveling over to Indiana. My God. Indiana. Man, I need to lay off the Adderall. Traveling to Indiana to take on SIG. But one big note here, SIG has lost his QB for this game. Wes, I don't know if he knew that or not, but he went with Indiana regardless. Got to do your research. What do you think? Big Tent savant.
I'm at the point now where I'm still going to take Indiana, just because Washington has been just like a major letdown so far this year to me, compared to what they were last year. Coming off the championship year, new coach, different team. I'll take Cigarillo and ride with the Hoosiers. He's in the toughest part of his stretch. I could easily see him losing this one, but I think he's, he drew a lucky card this year. No Oregon, no Penn State, so good for him.
Jed Fish is gonna do UF a solid and start knocking this guy out the list this week.
So.
I got a feeling. He already knocked himself off the list. Now he's going to try to go start working on knocking SIG off the list. Of course. Oh, I dropped the pen. Of course, losing your quarterback, that always we understand how that goes. I don't know. I don't even know what he's got in the tank for a backup quarterback.
No idea with Indiana.
I'm going to go with Washington with the quarterback down, but I'll probably be wrong because you've got this on lock. All right, man. Boise State, the Genty Heisman train is rolling in to Las Vegas to take on UNLV and the go offense. Wes went with UNLV. Who you think, CJ?
Taking Boise State. They got a difference maker back there in the backfield. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think this is going to be a classic, turn on the TV late at night. They're playing late at night, right? They have to be.
Probably. God knows, none of those games come on. They'll be coming on right when I'm ready to lay down for the night.
Kick off like 10 o'clock, and you're going to watch that thing till 2 a.m.
Just to see Genty, how many yards he rocks.
Just go up and down the field. So, yeah, I'll take Boise State. I think they win.
Yeah, I'm going with Boise, too. I think this dude's locked in. Jacksonville kid. Trying to get this Heisman thing going, man. He's got Barry Sanders in his sights. I know a lot of people are poo-pooing on who he's played against, but the kid played against Oregon and ran for 200 yards. I mean, you can only play the guys on your schedule. That's all you can do. But there's plenty of people that have played terrible schedules and never had a season like this. So
absolutely,
I don't want to hear it. All right. James Franklin and Penn State sneakily into the top 5. Traveling to Wisconsin. CJ, another one of your Big Ten matchups. Wes is going with Penn State.
Wins.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm going Penn State. Yeah, Wisconsin is no bueno. Tyler Van Dyke going down early in the year has not helped them at all. I don't know how much time Luke Fickell's got left up there, to be honest with you.
It's not looking good, man. Give me the Stormtroopers. Give me Penn State. James Franklin continues to improve his resume, possibly as a future head coach of the Florida Gators. Whoa,
Indeed.
did I say that? He's a candidate. Just keep it in mind. Going to see who's actually watching the show and listening to the show this long in the comments when they hear me say that. All right, the Orange Men traveling down to Pitt to take on Cade Bell and those Pittsburgh Panthers. Man, this is actually a sneaky good matchup right here. Wes went with Pitt. What you think, CJ?
I usually am a big proponent of the Orange Men, but I'm going to take the Pitt Panthers this time. Pitt has been much improved this year. I think a lot of us were skeptical early with their offense, who they were playing, but they've gotten this far into the season and they have done a very good job.
Yeah, I'm going with Pitt too, man. They've got a really, really solid team. I look forward to them playing some better competition here and seeing what they're really all about. But I don't think, even though Syracuse been a really solid football team, I like what McCord's got going on. Syracuse is going to be good for years to come with that guy up there that they got from Georgia being their head coach. I got a good feeling about that, but not in this game. All right. Oklahoma, fresh off firing their offensive coordinators. Venables is scratching for his job, scratching and clawing to do whatever he can. Wait a minute. You can fire your offensive coordinator in the season?
I didn't know we could fire coordinators, period. I thought we just had to hope they got a job somewhere else.
Segue. You can do that? That's allowed? No, anyway, all seriousness. Oklahoma travels to the SIP, take on Lane. Lane's class to any hope for a playoff spot he can still muster. Wes went with Ole Miss. Who you think, CJ?
Yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss. I don't think that Oklahoma can score enough to beat Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's going back to Arnold for this game after sitting him down previously. So just he's doing anything and everything he can do to find a spark. And when you start doing that, you can pretty much mail it in from then on there, at least for this season. When you start switching quarterbacks, firing coordinators, and all of that, your season's in the blender.
Yeah.
This game could be a weird one. Missouri at Bama. Who is Bama? Where is Bama? What has happened to Bama? Why is Bama?
It's all great questions.
Wes picked Bama, but as I throw it to you, have you ever seen a coach lose the aura of a program so fast as what DeBoer has done?
You knew this was bound to happen when you come off of a coach like Nick Saban. You go to a guy who's not from around here. He's got no ties to here, and then he comes in and starts losing games to Vanderbilt. It's typically not good. And nobody does crazy better than Alabama. We haven't experienced Alabama crazy in a long time, but these folks can do it.
If they hadn't lost that Georgia game, I mean, if they hadn't beat Georgia in that game that they damn near blew, things would be real. If they'd have blown that game in the way that they almost did, and then got these two losses.
Yeah, they're staging a coup in Tuscaloosa.
They would have Shabanoed that man.
even still through all that, I'm taking Alabama in this one. Missouri has not impressed.
No identity whatsoever.
Scratching and clawing to beat Auburn.
Brady Cook coming off that injury. I can't imagine he's 100%. And if you needed any,
also their running backs out too for this
if you
game.
needed any indicator that Drinkowitz is just Billy Napier with an electric vehicle, he doesn't even hardly use Luther Burden. Like, he's got arguably one of the best wide receivers in the country and can't find a way to get him the ball. And we sympathize with that because, we do that here. All right. The main matchup, SEC matchup of the week, LSU at Texas A&M. West takes LSU in this matchup. What do you say? This ought to be a dogfight.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go into 8 overtimes. But I did, read a stat that every time that LSU and Texas A&M have played each other, with both of them being ranked in the top 25. LSU is 8-0. I'm taking the Tigers in this one. You know, I wanted to take A&M, but it's at Kyle Field. But there's been some times where A&M just hasn't looked as sharp as their record would indicate. I think LSU is on a better path right now. There are still some issues with LSU, but I'm going to take the Tigers in this one.
I'm going with LSU as well. Like I said earlier when I was talking about Florida having to play them here in the future, I just think LSU's line of scrimmage will really get into this one, and I haven't seen enough. If Wegman being the guy, I just don't think he's going to be able to handle the defense that LSU is going to throw at him. I really think if Florida might have played Wegman in that game, we probably would have had a better chance than we did with the mobile quarterback. That's a whole different story, another argument, whatever. But I really do believe that LSU is improving week to week, as much as I hate to say that, and that they end up finding a way to win this game. But that'll be a tough game. That'll be a dog fight. My phone just wants to keep going off. Thank you for texting me during the show, Christopher Zen. You're a good man. We appreciate you chiming in. But this isn't a call-in show.
Yeah, the last person we want to call in is Chris anyway.
Oh my God. Maybe sometime. We're gonna have to have Chris on the show. I used to go on. I did a couple of shows with him, and then I got COVID. It's his fault.
Just for funsies, what do you think about Miami and Florida State?
I almost put that one on here just for general discussion, but I guess we'll do it as a throw in. I think Miami. Excuse me, viewers. I think Miami's skull fucked.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. Yeah, I think that Miami's gonna blister them.
There ain't enough solo cups full of poop.
I saw what Miami did.
Poop in the world.
I saw what Miami did to us. As bad as we are, Florida State is worse. Do you throw Croman-Hote back in there? He looked a little better to Brock Glenn to me. I was surprised they went away from him.
I don't know. I don't know if I put him in against that defensive line.
I would. There's no way I'd let him play against Miami. I'd just be like, look, Glenn, you're going to take the lumps again this week, buddy.
Yeah. If you put that freshman in there and Bain is screaming down on him, that ain't DJ. He ain't got DJ's mindset. I think DJ would struggle pretty hard with that defensive line that Miami has when healthy. I know Luke ain't handling him. I'm just sorry, not with those alligator arm receivers that he's got out there.
Oh man, that was tough. That pass he threw to
Hakeem Williams, man, there were some huge lies told about Hakeem Williams from Florida State fans. There were some huge lies told about a lot of players on Florida State.
They are they're struggling. They are struggling.
I've never seen Florida State watch after the season. I mean, obviously, we're not in a whole lot of room to talk because we're going to have our own issues.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're stuck with that joker for at least now because of that buyout that he's got on that brand new contract. Thanks for that fake interest in Bama that you had.
They're going to have to blow up the coaching staff this offseason.
Maybe they finally find a way to get old Atkins out of there. Like you mentioned in our Facebook chat, Pat Surtain might be a real favorite for the
Southern Miss. Yeah. He's an alum. They're looking for a coach there.
That would be a huge loss to that coaching staff because that's the one guy they probably don't want to lose.
They still, did they finally part ways with Randy Shannon?
Does Randy Shannon even coach? That's the real mystery. But
he doesn't recruit. I'll tell you that much.
All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week. Like I said, I'm not sure we'll have a show next week. If we do, obviously, it'll be earlier in the week. If not, I will catch y'all on the other side of this thing that I'm about to walk myself into. It should be fun. It is what it is. At least win or lose on the day of the Florida-Georgia game, I'm winning one way or another. So that's all I can ask for. I had to pre-schedule myself a win that day just in case.
Hurst recovered from the brain freeze, and he's going back into the IC again.
Yep. Hey, I took a 15-year hiatus from that. So
took a break.
CJ, you got anything to add before we get out of here?
Just thank you guys so much for supporting us. Like I said, leave the like, the comment, the subscription. All that helps us out a ton. Check out the Twitter. Check out the Facebook chat. Like I said, we have great conversation over there about all things Florida Gator sports. Just we really appreciate you guys so much. This wouldn't be possible without you guys. Means a lot to us, to get on this, every week, and you guys are constantly invested in it, even with Florida not being super, super great right now. Basketball is around the corner, so there's that to look forward to. And then, of course, I'm enjoying watching Gator baseball in their fall camp. They're going to be playing Georgia next week in their exhibition in Jacksonville, so that'll be fun to check out. So we really, really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for your support. We're going to all get through this season together. It's what we do. I'm not going to use the all kinds of thing, because that's somebody else's shtick and they can have on that. But hey, we're all in it, better or worse. Hopefully, hopefully the right people have had enough when all this comes to pass and we move into the direction that Florida football is supposed to be. But until that moment comes, it is, as always, go Gators.
Go Gators.